And welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am your host, Ness.
And I am Jay.
How's it going?
Just another day in the life of stuff happening and trying to find some balance in all of it.
Yeah, I've finally started paying pretty close attention to the news after a break, and I am stressed and anxious. There's worry, and I figured this is a good time to talk about and shine some light on some serious things going on in the community, because everyone should stay alert, aware, and vigilant. If you guys haven't heard, because the news is not covering what's going on right now, but LA has been hit with pretty big ice raids. They've been kidnapping people, trying to get undocumented folks, but in the process are also arresting citizens, because people are just getting arrested and without due process getting punished for the crime of being brown, honestly, to be honest with you. I have been watching videos, looking at posts, and kind of trying to keep up with things happening. It has been happening here in the Bay Area, just not to the extent that it has been in LA the past couple of days. We do have some people, I believe, in LA. I have family down there. I haven't reached out. I'm not sure how they're doing. I don't know if you have family down there that should stay aware. But I pulled up some resources. If you're ever in the car, you're pulled over by ICE. If you have lawful status, you have to show documentation, such as a permanent resident card, work permit, or other relevant proof of status. If you're not documented, you don't have to say that you're not documented. You don't have to show papers. You don't have them. There's also, you have the right to remain silent. You don't have to give any information. You don't have to answer any questions, unless they have a warrant, and if they say they do, tell them to ask them to slide it under the door so you can see it. If they have one, obviously you have to comply, but otherwise they don't have the right to come into your home to take you or whatever. If you want to help the community out, you can call 888-624-4752. It is an ACLU rapid response network. There's been a lot of people posting a lot of information online. It's pretty easy to find right now. There's a lot of celebrities and whatever sharing information, as well as, of course, community organizers. Just, if you look for it, you'll find it. It's not hard to find. On top of that, our friend Sylvia from who we met again through, oh my god, what is it called?
Hockey of Tomorrow.
Yes, thank you. Hockey of Tomorrow has opened a Substack and wrote an article about kind of intertwined with this topic, but it also is talking about the World Cup that's opening up in just a few days here in Miami, I believe. She did post a little excerpt from her article as she's promoting the Substack, and I'll read it for you guys. For Chicanos, soccer is not just a pastime, it's a channel for memory and contradiction. Wearing a Mexico jersey at an immigrant rights protest feels like more than nationalistic pride, but a form of refusal to assimilate and to forget the cultures, histories, and communities that make them. It says, "You tried to erase our language, our accent, our families, but we are still here." But the symbol is also complicated. The Mexican state has its own long history of anti-indigenous violence, racism, and U.S. collaboration, and invoking that heritage doesn't erase the fact that at least 30% of ICE agents are of Latin American descent. Bringing the Mexican flag or its national team to protests risks reinforcing a state-based identity in a movement meant to transcend borders. It invisibilizes the Central American, Afro-Latinx, and indigenous migrant experiences at the northern and southern borders of Mexico. Nationalism, even when inverted, is a double-edged sword. I did quickly read this early this morning. It basically does talk about the contradictions of being proud of your culture and fighting for your people in one country while also acknowledging the wrongs that the other country is going through, which is something that I kind of resonate with. Also, obviously, I'm not Mexican, but Salvadorian, here, very proud of my culture, but paying attention to things going on there where the president of El Salvador is collaborating with the US right now to imprison a lot of these migrants who are being taken from their families here in the States. So it's very contradicting. It is a really well-written article. Check it out. Find her at Bad and Ants on Twitter. I believe it's the same handle on Blue Sky if she's on there. Well-written. I don't know if you have anything you'd like to share as well.
There's just a lot going on right now. I don't necessarily have anything collectively put together. I think every day it's just another thing after another thing, and we found ourselves in this situation just 4 years ago, or 8 years ago, whenever he was elected last. And I just remember during that time, I was feeling very lost in what I can do. And I think it's important to remember that you have to protect your mental health first and foremost, because we're not going to be able to help others if we're not caring for ourselves. And going back to when all of this happened 8 years ago, I started getting really into focusing on my local government and what I could do here at the local level, because that's something that I feel like I have some control over, because when you look at the bigger picture of things, it can get incredibly overwhelming. And I think when it becomes overwhelming, just staying informed and sharing these resources with other people, because as you said at the beginning of this, that it's not getting covered by the platforms that have a bigger reach. And so I think it's important that we at the very least stay informed, share these resources, continue to get them out there. Because I think it gets incredibly overwhelming to try and figure out how best that you can help. And I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah. And also, I probably mentioned this when we talked about it then too, but I can't go out to protests for whatever health reasons I have. So this is my way of sort of trying to contribute to help in whatever way that I can. So yeah, man, it's tough out there. Everyone stay safe and careful. And really, honestly, again, just being part of community is really big during these moments. So reach out to your folks, check in, make sure you're okay. Okay, one deep breath. And then we can move on to hockey. So the Stanley Cup Finals have started this past week. I believe they started on Wednesday. Only 2 games have been played. I think the third one starts today. I haven't been keeping up, honestly, but seems series is tied 1-1. Edmonton won the first game. Florida tied it up on Friday. I think they went to overtime. I think that's as far as I paid attention.
Overtime. Both games went into overtime. Both games went into double overtime. So,
Dang.
We know the talent on these teams. We know how much of a expectation is fired under the Edmonton Oilers right now. I mean, McDavid, I think he's due for a contract soon. I kind of feel like whatever the outcome is, I think he's still going to stay. But in any case, there is this expectation now more than ever that the Oilers have to get it done. They have the talent. They just have not been able to get over the hump. They've made several changes year after year in the organization. But we do know that the Panthers have gone all the way last season. So we know that they've shown they have it in them to go all the way. The Oilers, on the other hand, there's been an expectation and they have not been able to do so. And I was texting one of my friends last night who was watching the game, and I said, we talked about this last episode, that I wouldn't be upset if the Oilers got it done if it weren't for a particular person on the team. And like, if both teams could lose, that would be like the best outcome for me here, but that can't be the case here. One of these teams have to take it all the way. And from what I saw last night, from the 5 minutes that I watched, you're welcome. I ended double overtime for everybody. Marchand was the one who got the dagger in there in regulation to really force the Oilers to find their next gear, but then gave them this confidence, and they stayed alive for the next into double overtime, only for Marchand to come in again with the second dagger. He cleaned it off. He was biding his time, and then he came in there and took it away from the Oilers. So I mean, both teams are still very much in this game. We're only entering game 3, and if you have a lot invested, if either one of these teams is yours, my condolences for the amount of anxiety that you're feeling. I feel nothing. Honestly,
we're fine.
Honestly, we've already said this in a number of ways, that the draft is all I care about right now. I want this to be over so we can get to the draft. Even though the draft is not, it's a different tone for the draft, in that everything falls on what the Islanders are going to be doing. And I don't know if we'll talk about this a little later, but all I'll say is that I welcome surprises. I welcome a Shane Wright type surprise.
Right. Yeah, that would be interesting. Oh, because the Combine was this past week also. So, people have been putting out articles. Shane Peng has been asking all the right questions to these draftees, Misa and Scheafer, and how they feel about if the other one will be like drafted first overall, or whatever. I'm intrigued. It sounds like Misa sounds really excited to be joining, or to potentially be joining the Sharks organization. He sounds like a decent player from what I've seen, but I don't know. It really could go either way.
I've been seeing a lot of conversation, because at this point, all signs lead to the Islanders are going to choose Scheafer. He's the touted best option out of the boy auction. But as we saw in previous drafts, with the exception of Celebrini and Bedard, like those of, like, if we didn't pick him, we'd be like the laughing stock. But in these other drafts where there wasn't like a clear first overall, like I mentioned back when Shane Wright was being talked about as being the pick for the Habs, and then he didn't go until like the 4th pick to Seattle Kraken. That somewhere along those lines. I'm not really feeling like, from what I've seen, Scheafer is in the conversation similar to Bedard and Celebrini. So Like I said, everything relies on the direction that the Islanders are going to choose. I've been seeing people talking about they've made moves in the past with the drafts that they've already with the players they've already picked in previous drafts, where they're really like much better up front, and they need to replenish the pool similar to us with defense and whatever. So if they don't end up choosing Scheafer, I think it's a no-brainer that the Sharks are going to choose him instead. But most outlets are going with the assumption that he's definitely even going to go first. And it looks like people are definitely saying that Misa's going to go second. And I have a friend that's been sending me all this other stuff. And it's like, oh, another guy saying like maybe the Sharks should choose this dude. And I'm just like, I'll be honest, I haven't really been looking at any of that stuff, because why get my hopes up about somebody else? You know, why get amped up about somebody else when like we know that it all depends on who the Islanders are going to choose.
Right. Yeah, we don't have the first overall, so it is like we have to wait and see again.
I'll get excited
like every other
for
year.
these other guys if we do get them. But in the meantime, the conversations between Scheafer and Misa, and that to any extent that's the ones that I'm just kind of like humoring myself and getting ready for the potential we would have one of those two guys. And then there's been talks about how Misa looks more like the more traditional center. Like if we ended up getting him, the potential that I know there's been Greer's talked about how next season he's going to try out Will Smith again at center, because we know he moved over to the wing later in like after the beginning of the season. And then we know Will Smith wants to get back into that position because that's where he's played his entire life. But there's been a lot of talks about if we were to get Misa and he can solidify himself in the 2C position, having Will Smith play with Celebrini up top, and then you have like Eklund and the other upcoming prospects and how that would unfold. So that sounds exciting to me. So I'm ready to get excited between whoever we end up choosing. So let's get this Stanley Cup thing, like, let's get this inferior aspect of the sport over and done with, and let's get to the draft.
I wanted to go back a little bit to the finals because the NHL or Sportsnet is hosting NHL and ASL, which is really cool. They posted on Twitter earlier this week, on the 2nd, that you can tune in to every game during the Stanley Cup Final for a broadcast dedicated to the deaf and hard of hearing community. You can stream NHL and ASL on Sportsnet Plus in Canada, presented by Scotiabank, and Sports on Max in the US. I think it's cool that they're offering this as an option. I wish it was a little bit more available as opposed to having to subscribe to these channels to be able to access this, but it's a start. It's nice that it's an option. Like I said, I think this is maybe the second year. We probably touched on this last year because it sounds very familiar, but it's cool that they brought it back. Inclusivity and all that.
Yeah, like you said, they need to. It's nice that they have it, especially during this time of the year where, you know, it's like any other sport. It's like the Super Bowl. Like you have your random friends who don't follow either of these teams, but you've got one friend that hosts a Super Bowl game and everyone comes over regardless if they care about either team. So this is kind of the equivalent in a sense to a Super Bowl, the World Series, whatever. It's a great opportunity to kind of hit to the most people. But if you get these people interested in it from the deaf and hard of hearing community, but then you don't offer it for like regular season games, like you're kind of doing yourself a disservice by doing the right thing, taking the first step. But then if you aren't consistent with it, then you're just, I don't know, you're just you're not being really authentic in your approach here. You're just trying to get, you're trying to benefit from these other communities that would otherwise feel alienated from getting involved. Because I mean, I'm part of the hard of hearing community. Like, thankfully, like, this doesn't affect me to be able to watch sports, but in a relatable sense, it was hard for me to get before the Bay got Bay FC. I was following the Seattle Reign, but because I don't live in Seattle, one, it was already kind of difficult to access games. But when I did access games, they didn't really have that great of a broadcast. So I'm getting to watch the game, but if I want commentary to tell me like what's happening down at the pitch, because it's really hard to like see from this broadcast, or even when the PHF, you have to start somewhere, right? Like, and they were offering broadcast, but if the angle isn't good, then you need that broadcast team to really help you out, especially for a game like any sport. If you're getting somebody into it, you need to kind of help out the newbies by telling them like what's happening down on the pitch, because if not, then they're going to easily tune out and not be interested. And so hopefully this is the starting point for growth. And I'm interested to see if they take that next step, because otherwise, if they don't, I don't know.
Then what's the point? Why are you making it exclusive? That's so silly. But it's like I said, it's cool that they have it. So if you are hard of hearing, or deaf,
I am very hard at healing, hearing, part of all these communities.
I'm part of all of them. Communities galore. If you're subscribed to Max or Sportsnet Plus, go ahead and check that out. It's take advantage. The more people use it, the more they'll try to make it more accessible, probably, because money talks or whatever. I think this is a good place to talk about our sponsors, so I'm gonna take a few moments to do that, and then we'll get on to our next topics. So, the fastest game on the ice just hit another gear. Welcome to the Stanley Cup Final, where legends are made and every shift could turn the tide. And now with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can take every slap shot, breakaway, and overtime thriller to the next level. New to betting on the Stanley Cup Final, here in an exciting time. Getting started is a breeze. Fire up the DraftKings Sportsbook app, pick your team to win, lock in your wager, and you're off to the races. It's fast, simple, and puts you right in the middle of the action. Here's the kicker. New customers who bet just $5 will score $300 in bonus bets if their wager hits. That's right, turn $5 into a Stanley Cup Final payout. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code THPN. That's promo code THPN to unlock $300 in bonus bets when your $5 bet wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus age and eligibility varies for jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Minimum minus 500 odds required. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Copyright 2025 NHL. So I was wrong about the final. I believe the next game 3 is tomorrow. With money line for the Oilers is a plus 120 and the Panthers are a negative 142. So seems like the Oilers are a favorite to win that game. If you're not into hockey. If you're not into hockey, listening to a hockey podcast, that's funny. If you're
Welcome.
also if you're also into basketball, those finals are going on as well. But the game is today. By the time this comes out, it's not going to count. But you can check out the game after later this week. Put your bets on those guys. Looks like the Pacers are favored to win today, but it won't matter by the time this comes out. So check that out. Place your bets, have fun, win some money, use our code. All right, so next topic for the day. Apparently, breaking news. Apparently, there's been another coaching change. Jay, what happened? What do you think happened here? I didn't see this coming.
I'm just so shocked.
So if you, for whatever reason, are out of the loop in the hockey world currently because your team is out of the playoffs, not in the finals, it seems like Mr. Peter DeBoer has been fired by the Dallas Stars. I can't imagine why.
That just reminds me, I was listening to our friends over at Ice's Slippery podcast they follow the NHL as a whole and then specifically the Stars and the Flyers. And I listened to their episode the previous week when all the talk about after the Stars got knocked out and Pete DeBoer's words in regards to how this is Jake Ottinger's fault. And if you haven't listened to that episode, I would recommend you go check out their reactions to it, them being Stars fans, and you can imagine they're very upset with basically Jake getting thrown under the bus, similar to what we were saying. But why I'm bringing that up is because you said Peter DeBoer, and it reminded me that they started using Peter DeBoer on their episode as a bit almost like, for lack of a better word, derogatory, because in the past, I guess there's been a writer or he's been referred to as Peter DeBoer, and it was used in a sense where, okay, go listen to the episode because I'm gonna butcher their explanation about it. All I know is that when they started laughing and started using Peter DeBoer, because now they're like, oh, I don't like you, so I basically won't defend you anymore. I'm just gonna say Peter DeBoer. Because we know he's when he was here with us on the Sharks, he was called Pete DeBoer, he was called PDB. Like, to hear him being referred to as like Peter DeBoer, it's like, who is that?
Yeah.
Like, no, but now that he's kind of taken the mask off and he's said the quiet part out loud, it's like, I'm not defending you anymore. I'm going to call you Peter DeBoer.
Use a full name. You're at that stage with me, sir. What's his middle name?
So no surprise, he was let go. The general manager, Jim Neal, said today was a tough day. I'm sure, Jim. I spoke with Pete this morning at 9:00. Great conversation. He was very professional and he understands. We have a good relationship, and that's probably what makes this the hardest. I have the utmost respect for him as a person and a coach. In the end, it's my responsibility to make a decision that's right. That's the right decision for an organization moving forward. When this came out, I was talking about it with a couple of friends. One of my friends brought up, and this probably has nothing to do with it, but we love stirring the pot. She had made note of interesting how this comes about after the last open NHL coach position has been filled by Boston. So, and then I immediately thought of that gift from Game of Thrones where it's, I forgot, what house is she from? Anyways, there's that gift that always goes around when you want to, I can't think of the word. Anyways, it's that famous gift that says, tell Pete I want him to know it was me.
Right.
And that's what I thought about when she made mention of that, where it's just like, oh yeah, I'll get the last laugh and you'll know. I'll let you know. So anyways, yeah, no, yeah, whatever. Fine. Goodbye, DeBoer. You made your grave and you got kicked in it and nobody cares. And it reminded me of back when when he was coaching the Sharks and he was here for what, like 4 seasons, and it just got to the point where it was like no hard feelings at the time. It felt like it was the best direction, that we're not trying to blame it on Pete, but the Sharks were clearly not getting it done under him and they needed to go in a different direction. And the hard feelings only came after Vegas decided to sign him, and then he threw the Sharks under the bus. Well, in the sense for the Dallas Stars, he showed his true colors that beforehand, and that's what ended up getting him the boot. So this seems very classic Pete DeBoer.
Yeah, seems to be his MO.
Where you feel like, because I remember I respected him after games when he had to have the tough conversations and answer the questions by the media. And, you know, he really stuck up for the guys, and he seemed very level-headed, but didn't really seem like a pushover. So you could kind of respect him in that he was defending the team up until he can't get the team over the hump, and he knows that his time with the organization is wearing thin, and then he becomes very petty.
Mm-hmm. Maybe he should be called Petty DeBoer. Sorry, I couldn't help that one.
But you know, as the NHL goes, even though the final open NHL coach vacancy has been filled, I don't think this is the last we'll see of Peter DeBoer. I'm sure he'll come around in a couple of years and someone will be like, maybe this time.
Someone will fire their coach to pick him up.
I saw somewhere someone made mention about Peter DeBoer and how he's like the best coach to almost win the Stanley Cup.
Yes. Oh, that's so sad. What is he like? How he's been to the finals 3 times, maybe? Stanley Cup Finals?
I want to say 2.
2 only? Oh, okay. Yeah. He just got a taste of it and he couldn't do it. On the topic of ex-Shark coaches and also your second team, as we mentioned, the Rangers had decided to hire Mike Sullivan, I don't know how many weeks ago now. But it was announced 3 days ago that they hired 3 assistant coaches. One of them being David Quinn, a familiar face for both us and them, because he did coach the Rangers before he came over here to the Sharks. But you know, good for him. He was a nice guy. I liked him as a coach out here. Not as a long-term coach for the Sharks, because of where we were at while he was coaching. But he seemed like a really nice guy, was really for the players. He did show up to a Pride event here that the Sharks were hosting, so ally, thanks. Yeah.
Look, I think, like, for what you mentioned, not a long-term coach, like, I thought, I'm not upset that Greer chose him as his first coach under his, when he became GM. It largely felt like he wanted someone that he knew he could trust. And I think that's fair. I think if I were in position, I would want to do the same thing. You know, your first GM job, you don't want to mess it up by picking some random that you've just only kind of read about and maybe had a few interactions with. Like, I get it. Is he the best long term? I don't know if that was necessarily Greer's expectation. I want to say it wasn't. I still feel like we talked about this probably earlier in the season when Brosovsky got named head coach. I think that was always the direction as long as Brosovsky worked out that way. And I'm happy that if that were the case, that Brosovsky did end up getting the head coach position. I'm happy with his first year. Obviously, it could have been better, but hey, you know, there's a lot of moving parts here, and especially it being his first head coach position at the NHL level. I do recall he probably wasn't David Quinn probably wasn't the best option for certain players, which I think is ultimately the reason why, among other reasons, why he was let go. I just remember when he was named head coach and we kind of headed over to the New York Rangers fan base to kind of get a feel, and they were very bitter with his time here. I remember you had made mention about how, well, Adam Fox won the Norris during his time, so that was a nice highlight, but the overall vibes from New York Rangers fans was just, they did not like him one bit. So the fact that he is now, I mean, yeah, he's not the head coach, but he's still part of your coaching staff. And when this got announced, I went over to the New York Rangers Reddit, and it was like 95% like, great, awesome, you know, just not no rolling out the red carpet for David Quinn. And I think someone mentioned, I don't know if it's said down here, but okay, yeah, he's not the head coach, so he's not leading the charge, but all these assistant coaches specialize in a specific part of the game. You know, you've got the PKs, you got the power plays. David Quinn is going to be in charge of the fence, apparently. So
that sounds right.
Yeah, and in the Reddit, someone made mention once again about the Adam Fox thing and him winning the Norris, and someone else saying like, well, we know that Norris isn't necessarily awarded to people based on defense. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. Of course, I have no ill feelings toward David Quinn. I just find it kind of funny that he's now back with the Rangers. You know, whatever distracts people from saying negative things about the Sharks, here's the latest dumpster fire that's going to be entering next season. You've got the return of David Quinn, when it seems like most of the Rangers fan base were ecstatic to see him go, and now he is back. So
yeah,
we love a good soap opera. So
always, dude, the NHL lives for drama. We talk about this all the time. Yeah, good luck, Rangers fans. I'm sure it'll be fine if he's in charge of defense. Like,
it'll be fine until their defense starts sucking, and then they'll pile on.
Yeah, that's true. But that's not our problem. We'll be sitting here with popcorn. All right, so I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about retired NHL players, because sometimes they're fun. Sheng Ping, I don't know how he got this information, who he talked to or what, but yesterday posted about Marc-Andre Fleury while he was at the World Champions. He asked Porter Martone. I don't know who that is. Anyways.
He's one of the guys who go top 10 in the draft.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. So that's why he was interviewing him, because he's been talking to the younglings. Okay, so he says that at World Championships, Fleury victimized Adam Fantilli. This was his last prank. He quotes, he sewed a cuff of the bottom of his pants together so he couldn't put his pants on after the game. That was pretty funny, unquote. So You know, Fleury's always been known for his pranks and being a silly guy, and like everyone loves him in the locker room. And so, of course, he had to go out with another prank, which I think is really silly. I'd be so frustrated. Like, why is my leg not going through my pant? Like what's happening? What a silly guy.
Gonna miss that guy.
I know, he was so good for the sport.
He should unretire himself and be back up to Askarov next season. Manifest.
That'd be crazy. Just hire him as a goalie coach. Oh, imagine. That'd be fun. In other retired player news, we saw there was a Jumbo sighting. I don't think I've ever seen him at a Giants game, but he was seen at the Giants game yesterday or a few days ago, sporting a jersey and a hat and sunglasses. Like, he looks like he's trying to be undercover. Like, you know how you watch Marvel movies and then which one was it? Captain America Civil War, and then Captain America is hiding with Sam, and they're wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses in plain sight, and that's their disguise, and that's it. Like, that, it looks like that's what he's trying to do, but his beard is just so iconic. Like, you can't not recognize him. Yeah, he went to enjoy a game. I believe the Giants have been doing pretty well this season. It's been fun. Love that Jung Hoo Lee has been healthy. He's been killing it. He's been a lot of fun to watch.
Jung Hoo Lee did a what do you call it? A spot in GQ at the park. And one of my friends sent me one of the pictures of him, like he's like sporting, you know, some bling or whatever. And I'm like, I will buy whatever he's selling.
Little fangirl moment. Oh my
god. And then same friend also wanted to give Jumbo kudos that he's not in one of the booths at the Giants game. He's just right down there with the locals. Chili, we know if anyone were to stop him, he would have just been excited to, you know, share a moment with a fan, take a picture, whatever. So Jumbo's a good guy.
Seems pretty humble, yeah. Down with the commoners. In other Sharks news, I guess. We can. I don't know if you want to touch on the draft again. This article on The Athletic about Matthew Scheafer.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring this up because as we're getting geared up for the draft, I came across this article that was comparing, I mean, you know, with every draft, like this one, they're saying, oh, it's not going to be as like, you know, as deep as in comparison to how they talked about the draft with Celebrini and the draft with Bedard and whatever. So I was just really, I thought this was interesting to kind of put it in perspective for folks that are interested in this stuff, how Matthew Scheafer being talked about as, you know, he should definitely go first overall, how he compares to the other 9 first overall picks in previous drafts. So the first on this list is Austin Matthews, and I think he's shown to, you know, if you go back to the draft, you're picking Austin Matthews every time. So he tops the list here. And I just wanted to bring attention to the fact that Macklin Celebrini is number 2 on this list. When this was done the year prior, he was put as number 5. He was voted as number 5 on this list. And then right under him is Connor Bedard. And now I'm not saying that, Connor is not as great as everybody was making it out to be. But we've talked about this numerous times about in comparing how much attention and hype Connor Bedard was given in his draft year. And then when Macklin's draft year didn't really seem as much. didn't really seem as much. And even now, I still feel like there could be more given to celebrate. And maybe I'm just viewing it from teal colored goggles, but I appreciate that people are starting to see his talent. And I was thinking about it also in terms of when we were on the the Blackhawks podcast, the Hockey Princess. I might be getting that slightly wrong, but we were invited on to a Blackhawks specific podcast last season, and we kind of in that time we talked about in comparisons because both our teams are at the bottom. We're kind of like right next to each other in terms of expectations, rebuild. They've got Bedard, we have Celebrini, and comparing. We mostly talked about how they're a bit envious of the vibes over here because I think it's just been really helpful for Macklin to just be able to play his game, be surrounded by his peers, and then men. Like I feel like our approach is healthy to make sure that we're not piling on to our first overall and having him try to drag us across the finish line towards making the playoffs in the coming years. But I guess the Blackhawks haven't been really doing that as successfully. And I don't know if that's necessarily playing into Bedard's game. I feel like last season there was some more talk about how he's struggling or his expectations for that season, like he wasn't really achieving it. I don't know. I would say he's doing what he needs to do, because all that pressure on a first overall pick, we know how that can go south real quickly. But I want to say some of the success of Macklin is just the environment that he's been placed in, a much healthier environment than the traditional old man hockey mentality. And so whatever the case may be, I'm happy to see that Macklin is getting the respect that he deserves, from being voted 5th on this list last season to now he's right behind Austin Matthews.
Right.
And just to round off the list, after Bedard is Jack Hughes, then it's Matthew Scheafer. So if we kind of want to get a feel for where he kind of ranks, so he's there. The hockey media analysts voted that Scheafer would be right in the middle here. Then it's Rasmus Dahlin, Owen Powers, Nico Hischier, Alexis Lafreniere, and Jura Slavkovsky. Jura Slavkovsky.
I'm surprised that he's like right in the middle of the pack, because from what I've been hearing, everyone's been saying it's not a very strong draft. It's not a blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, I don't know what to expect, but seems decent. Does that mean Misa is right there with him if they're both touted to go first or second?
I think that's an exciting spot to put him in, for perspective of if the Sharks end up going and getting Misa.
Right.
I guess
I'm
so.
not mad at it. Like, the Devils have 2 of their players up there. I wouldn't mind the Sharks having 2 players up there next year, you know? In terms of drafts, we're going to shift gears a little bit here. I did want to remind y'all that tomorrow, June 9th, we do record on a Sunday, so June 9th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. What's that? What's that here? 5:30 Pacific here. The PWHL is doing their expansion draft. There's gonna fill the okay, so I remember last week we talked a little bit about the scheduling of what the PHL is looking for the new 2 teams coming in, right? There was the free agency signing or something, the protected lists, Both Seattle and Vancouver have already chosen for 5 players, which I'm surprised to see some names on here. But they will be able to finish filling out their roster tomorrow in the expansion draft, and then later on in the month they'll do the regular draft, like the kids coming in from college and stuff. So if you guys have not seen, Seattle currently has a roster made up of one Hillary Knight, Danielle Serdachny. If I butcher their names, I'm sorry. Kayla Barnes. Okay, wait, I should probably say. So Hillary Knight from the Fleet, Danielle Serdachny looks like from the Charge, Kayla Barnes from Victoire, Alex Carpenter from the Sirens, and Corinne Schroeder, the goalie, from the Sirens as well. So the Sirens lost 2 really good players, which is crazy, and they are already struggling as a team. So that's interesting. Vancouver currently has Claire Thompson and Sophie Jacques from the Frost. Emrance, how do you say her name? Moshmayer?
Yeah.
Okay. From the Charge, a goalie. Sarah Nurse from the Scepters. And then Jennifer Gardner from Victoire. So that's fun, interesting. I wouldn't have expected Nurse or Knight to have been left unprotected, but the list was very limited, so I guess it's kind of understandable. I think some PWHL fans are a little upset at that, but this is exciting for Seattle and Vancouver. Like, I'd be pretty excited to follow either one of these teams.
Yeah, I think this is exciting for the PWHL. I mean, expansion draft, you want to keep these teams competitive. Like we know in the past, before the Seattle and the Vegas draft, like before then, it didn't allow for the expansion team to be able to get into the mix quite as quickly. I mean, I know there's been some comparisons with Vegas and Seattle. I'm not saying that either one of those teams was able to put together a playoff now team. Granted, Vegas was able to make it into the playoffs very early on. I mean, Seattle has had one appearance, and then they made headlines by knocking out the Avalanche. So, but in the past, it hasn't been quite as successful for the long term for expansion teams. I mean, we've seen with the Atlanta Thrashers. I mean, if you have an unsuccessful team in an area that is not necessarily known for hockey, you're not giving them a good recipe for success in the long run. So I don't know if that necessarily plays into how the PWHL decided to create their expansion draft and their guidelines, but giving the teams only the ability to protect 3 players, you definitely leave a lot of very good. I mean, protecting 3 players is that's your first line. Okay, you get to keep your first line. and yeah, so Seattle and Vancouver had quite a lot of folks that they got to pick from with who was exposed. And I mean, Hillary Knight, she has mentioned, I think she said that she was no longer doing the national. She said something about retiring from one of those things, but she did mention that next season would not be her final season playing. I can't find it here right now, but anyways, yeah, I can't find it here right now. But yeah, I mean, Hillary Knight, she's 35, so she's got, at least get the team going and usher in the next wave of talent. And then we know Sarah Nurse plays on the national team. That's a good starting point for both these teams. So, we already know, even if they didn't have these players, even if they didn't do the expansion draft this way, they're obviously Seattle's got the Kraken, and we know how much of a success that was when they got there. We know Vancouver, it's a hockey community out there. Like both of these communities were already welcoming a women's team for the PWHL from the get-go. This just makes it even more exciting for them, especially like very well-known national level players like a Hillary and like a Nurse, and then these players that have been part of success in their own right, and then being an important player on their previous teams, like Corrine Schroeder, like Alex Carpenter, who's also been on the national team. This is cool. I won't be rooting for either one of them because I'll still be rooting for the Sirens, even though like you said, the fact that Seattle takes two of their players that are, part of what was helping them in their limited success. I'm a little concerned for the Sirens right now. I really am.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Can you go lower than last?
I mean, in this previous draft, the Sirens did choose. I think they chose quite high in the draft, so I'm hoping that'll help them out in the long run. But right now, yeah, they're not doing too great, and this is not going to be good for them. That two of some of their best players are now over in Seattle. And then if I were to show some love to either one of these teams, I guess I would lean towards Seattle only because Hillary Knight is on there. And now I can root more for Hillary Knight again because she's not on a Boston team.
Yeah. Plus they'll have Carpenter and Schroeder.
Mm-hmm.
Schroeder? Yeah. That's going to be a great team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Speaking of Boston Legacy FC is a thing. Have we talked about them? Have we mentioned them? I think we
briefly mentioned them, but they have officially taken away the generic Boston Nation, Boston FC, whatever it was, and they have created their identity,
which is
the Boston Legacy.
They're called the Legacy, and their logo has a swan. It's really cute.
Swans are vicious. Watch out.
They are. Should I share my screen for this one so we can show people who are watching? Boop. Wait. So here's the logo. It is a, what do you call this? Like a shield. Boston on top. Yeah, the crest. Nice little clean silhouette of a swan. It's very clean. The crest, a classic shield shaped like a shield. Our crest reflects the time-honored visual style of football clubs around the world. A modern take, the sleek lines and minimalist interpretation by Matthew Wolff capture the contemporary essence of the NWSL and expand his impact on the look and feel of soccer clubs around the world. Her wings, one wing. Her wing, 8 for 8. Each feather on her wing honors one of the original 8 clubs that established the NWSL in 2013, including the Boston Breakers. A nod to the Zakim. Her feathers are carved by lines reminiscent of the cables of the Zakim Bridge, if that's how you pronounce it. Featured in our interim crest, this Zakim Bridge represents Boston's commitments to unity and justice. I have never been to Boston, so my bad. The Swan, a Boston icon, from the swan boats in the public garden to the bevies in Charles and the Mystic to Romeo and Juliet, who spend their winters at the Franklin Park Zoo. Swans have been a fixture in Boston for over 150 years. A fearless protector, loyal to the end and aggressively territorial, the Swan is known for her style, yet feared for her grit. No wonder she feels at home in Boston.
Like I said, they're vicious.
That's silly. But yeah, that's the logo for the incoming Boston Legacy Football Club. Fun times to be like a women's sports fan, to be honest with you. I feel like it's growing really fast right now. It's great. Okay, so I saw this promotion. I couldn't go, obviously, because I was working yesterday, but BFC and the Valkyries were doing like a collaboration sort of thing where you could buy a ticket, like one ticket pack where you buy a ticket to both games because they both played yesterday for Pride. So you would start out at Chase Center, watch the Valkyries play, and they offered a charter bus to take you down to San Jose to go watch the Bay FC game, and it also included a team item. It didn't specify which team or if you got one of each. I wasn't sure. You watch Bay FC play, and then the bus would take you back to Chase Center, and I was like, what a genius move. I feel like they should do that more often because I would definitely take advantage of that on a day that I can go. It's like $150. Not bad. Oh no, 105, sorry.
Okay, so I do want to clarify that I think it was organized for the fact that June is Pride Month, but I don't believe it was the Valkyries Pride Night, because when I looked it up, their Pride Night is on the 27th, I want to say. Yeah, it's right here.
Oh, that's my bad.
But it was Bay FC's Pride. I don't know why I call it Pride Night. It wasn't even night. It started at 4:30, so it's not night. It's Pride Day. But yeah, I did see that, and I thought, wow, that's really cool for if I wasn't down here.
Right.
Because I wouldn't I guess it would have been fine. It would just obviously be a little more work for me to make that happen. But I thought it was cool for people that I worked out for. And I do believe I saw folks who probably took advantage of that, because I was seeing a lot of people who were, they took off the Valkyrie apparel, but they were still had it on their person. So they were probably the ones that took the bus down after the Valkyries game. And then they came and attended Bay FC's game, which they both won. And Valkyries did it in a commanding
27-point lead or something.
Yeah, it was ridiculous how many. And I to the point where I was feeling a little bad for the Aces, but just a little bit. I was feeling a little bad for them, just because they were really missing a lot of baskets. And I'm like, yeah. I felt kind of bad. But ultimately, Valkyries were just firing on all cylinders. And they were finally getting those shots from the 3-point line that just woof. Earlier in the week, I was talking to my friend that diehard Warriors fan, and he was joking, saying they should sign up and get some lessons from Curry. Because I was telling him every time they line up for a third
yes.
For 3-point, I'm like, do we have to? I was like, ugh. But I feel like they've really kind of cleaned that up, and yeah, so that was exciting. And then a couple hours later, if you took advantage of that promo, came down for Bay FC to really just, yeah, it was a tough match against the Portland Thorns, but ultimately Bay FC got out on top. And then I also got this.
Aw, cute.
Pin. Yeah. So I'll put that on something. Probably my hat when I go.
Good time for women's sports. I think we've mentioned this on the podcast before, because this is looking kind of familiar, but we'll reiterate if we did. But San Francisco will be opening its very first. I credit the city like it's the city's doing. There will be the first women's sports bar opening up in San Francisco called Ricky's. It is opening on June 11th, and that's very soon. I'm very excited. I will definitely be making my way out there at some point. The co-owners, Danielle Tho and Sarah Jurgovich, are, I don't know, yeah, they're the co-owners. They're opening it. I don't, I don't know why it's called Ricky's. I didn't read through this article, but this is an exciting time.
The bar's name honors Ricky Schreicher. I'm probably butchering that
Striker.
name. Yeah, there you go. Who was one of the co-founders of Gay Games Federation in 1982 and two queer women's bars in San Francisco, Moz and Amelia's, which sponsored several recreation sports leagues and teams in San Francisco. She unfortunately passed away in 1994 at the age of 72. So, we're just keeping the history alive and honoring those who came before us, who paved the way.
Yeah, so definitely check that out. I don't know if they'll be exclusively playing women's sports games or like that'll just be most of their focus, but it's sick. I don't know. This is like I said, it's a great and exciting time to be a women's sports fan. So might as well, go support, especially a local bar, because there was something like this in Seattle we talked about also, and I was like, dang, we should have one of those out here, and now we do. So we'll see about that.
Yeah, that'll be nice on the days when the game is only available on Amazon Prime, and I am not giving Amazon my subscription.
Rather spend that money on gas to get to this sports bar.
Support the gays.
Absolutely. All right. That's pretty much all I got. You have any last minute thoughts?
No, can it just be the NHL draft already? Because, like I said, I don't care about this cup right now.
No,
I guess it frees up my week that I get to focus more on like the Valkyries and the AFC. But I think I've consumed enough draft content that I just want to know who we're gonna get.
Right. Yeah, it'll be exciting to finally see who we draft and like start imagining what the team's gonna be looking like next season. My last thoughts, circling back to our first topic today, stay safe, be vigilant, take care of your community members, your family, free Palestine, all the good stuff, it's all intertwined at some point. But yeah, guys, take care, be safe, and that's what we have for you this week. See you guys next time. I've been Ness.
I'm Jay.
Thanks for watching or listening. Bye.
Bye.